An interesting feature of Uranus is that its axial rotation is different from the other planets. It is as if it were rolling like a ball along the plane of its orbit instead of spinning like a top. Strangely enough, people who are strongly under the influence of this planet seem as though they just have to be different from everyone else. They possess a peculiar independence, which makes them quite incapable of fitting into a general pattern of thought and behavior. They must develop their own methods of work and their own way of life. Although Uranus has had such a powerful and sometimes disruptive effect on humanity, the true influence of this planet is too subtle to be felt by humans unless the consciousness has awakened beyond a certain level of materialism. Indeed, Uranus has often been called the Awakener, the lightning flash. He has a most disconcerting way of forcing sudden and completely unexpected change in the lives of those who come under his direct ray. His action on our sluggish material mind is rather like that of an electric shock, and impels us to sit up and take notice, to arise from sloth or self-satisfaction. There is no doubt that Uranus has much affinity with Aquarius, the air sign of brotherhood, friendship, independence, and freedom of thought. Yet in itself it exerts a much more dynamic influence than the quiet, friendly sign whose traditional ruler is Saturn. One might almost liken Uranus to a laser beam, a ray of pure truth, which shines through the mist, the illusions, and through complexities of the outer life. Together with this urgent truth-seeking quality, there is also a longing for freedom, a longing to shake off the restrictions of the old ways and to press forward in search of new revelations, a new social order, new ways of living and of loving. It is easy to see how this revitalizing ray of truth and simplicity would have inspired the Romantic movement of the last century. Many great reformers, musicians, and poets of that time have Uranus emphasized in their charts. The same clear ray of truth which illumines the minds of scientists and inventors, causing them to discover and harness the natural forces of the earth, is also awakening the heart of humanity to the inner truth of spiritual life. It is causing something like a mass rejection of the creeds and dogmas of traditional religion, and is giving mankind an urge to seek again the divine source of truth and life, the living waters of the Spirit. Traditionally, Saturn rules the sign Aquarius. Saturn, the planet of responsibility. As the Aquarian influence grows stronger, humanity as a whole will more and more awaken to its responsibility as a community, indeed, to life itself. We shall each have it brought home to us that by every thought and action we affect the life of the whole world. This is the point at which the power of Uranus can quicken the soul, giving it clear vision and the urge to brotherly action. Only as this sense of responsibility develops can we fully respond to the Uranian ray which has the power to transform life. Uranus works in the life with power and intensity. It is a subtle influence which may remain dormant for quite a long period, then explode into action. It acts with equal power in the mental, physical, and emotional levels, and according to the progressions in an individual chart, it may affect the soul on any one of those planes, and sometimes on all three of them together. On the physical plane, its action brings unexpected changes, disruption of plans, and sudden events that might appear to be catastrophic. Often such happenings prove to be the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Uranus demolishes with a clean sweep. It is sudden and irrevocable. All that is outworn, and all that is hindering the inflowing of the fresh tide of life. On the mental plane, Uranus is dynamic. None but a strong and well-balanced soul can stand up to the Uranian lightning flash, which can at first dazzle and confuse, and cause us to act with apparent foolishness. The effect of Uranus on the mental plane will be felt increasingly in the years to come, when we begin to use the dynamic power of thought in communications and in the manipulation of matter, one of the secrets which this planet will reveal to the unfolding consciousness. Uranus, combining with and yet transcending the ray of Saturn, leads man to the discovery of the divine magic. On the emotional plane, this planet is equally dynamic, exhibiting all the passion, energy, and intensity of Mars. When the Uranian ray is affecting the feelings, it is a time for the assessment of true values, a time to discover the difference between real love, which is of the spirit, and the enslavement of intense desire and emotion. The soul often has to learn through sudden loss, disappointment, or separation. It has to learn the truth that in perfect love there can be no separation, that love can bridge the gulf of death. The power of Uranus brings sudden realization and illumination to the higher consciousness. Often it has been known as the homeless wanderer. But as soon as a soul feels deeply the ray of Uranus, it can no longer be confined to ordinary earthly interest. It has seen a light which it cannot but follow. It is a curious paradox that the ray of Uranus, which often brings about an uprising of the common people, also produces the most autocratic leaders, who draw others to them by the fire of their enthusiasm and their own personal magnetism. All other considerations, even personal relationships, become subservient to that light, which forces us to dedicate our whole self to the chosen work. And the Uranian willpower is formidable. This planet seems to combine the inflexible determination of Saturn, the fiery passion and intense devotion of Mars, and the mental powers of Mercury. In many ways, it is more closely allied to the etheric than to the physical plane. It is perhaps most harmoniously placed in the air signs and seems powerfully to affect the nervous system. It is interesting to note that many of the diseases of modern times appear to be nervous or psychic in origin, and that such diseases often respond better to spiritual healing or to psychological treatment than to normal medicine. On the outer planes, Uranus rules work connected with electricity, radio, electronic devices, aviation, and probably interplanetary communication, as well as all kinds of fringe medicine. It rules scientists, inventors, astrologers, spiritual healers, and those who work in progressive movements with some altruistic aim, and those interested in food reform or advanced ideas of any kind. If the influence of Uranus is powerful, but not balanced elsewhere in the chart by a sturdy common sense and humor, it will cause the individual to become fixed and dogmatic in their ideas, and they may well be exceedingly cranky. The tendency to force others to follow the same path can alienate friends and companions. The Uranian will is in this case beginning to manifest, but without the balance of true consideration for the free will of others. Uranus is also closely linked with the development of the third eye. This is identified with the pineal gland, that wisdom center in the head, which becomes illumined as the creative fire of Kundalini is raised through the spinal cord. Uranus is much concerned with the spine and the heart center. In esoteric astrology, Uranus is often likened to the little sun, the Christ self within the heart. So often is this influence available. It awakens and nurtures that inner light until it gradually becomes strong enough to illumine the whole being. It is perhaps true to say that under the influence of Uranus, we really begin to know ourselves and to have some idea of our own special mission. As humanity responds more and more to the Uranian ray that is now directed upon it, the painful struggles of the changing social order will all be resolved. As the mind and the soul are opened to the spirit of the new age, physical bodies will change, becoming more perfect in health, more graceful in bearing and in proportion. The ills that now harass the material life will gradually fall away, for Uranus, the king that is within us, will arise to direct the kingdom into ways of harmony and ways of peace.